Hello, hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome to a new edition of our show. We notice that a lot of you are paying attention to the papal visit, the visit of Pope Louis XIV to Africa. The Pope visited Algeria, the Pope visited Cameroon, the Pope visited Angola, and the Pope visited Equatorial Guinea. So there's so much noise, and people talk a lot about this visit. In fact, we even asked one of our young guys to cover this visit for us, especially the papal visit to Cameroon. His name is Jarvis Tar. He covered the visit. He sent us the video, uploaded it on our channel. So why is so much ado about this visit? Well, people talk a lot about the visit, but we think there's really some secrets that they're not talking about this visit. And that's what the video of today is about. People talk a lot, oh, Pope Leo versus Donald Trump. Yes, they pay a lot of attention to that. That's just like noise, much ado about nothing. Oh, Donald Trump, we know this. Donald Trump is a nationalist. He follows nationalism. The Pope follows globalism. So these are two leaders with two different ways of perceiving the world. We know this. But why are people spending so much time on the pageantry, the pomp and pageantry, instead of looking at the real meaning? Why is the Pope in Africa? Why? Do you know? That's what the video of today is about. So pay attention, we're going to tell you. Well, if you remember, we've been talking to you on this show about Professor Ali Masri. Professor Ali Masri had written a book titled The Africans, A Triple Heritage. In this book, Professor Masri said, the reality of modern Africa is a composite of three influences: Islam, Christianity, and indigenous tradition. When you look at the reality of modern Africa, the tensions of identity, what makes these tensions tick is this character when we have three influences: Islam, the religion brought by Muhammad; Christianity, the religion brought by Jesus Christ; and of course, traditional African belief systems. So these are the three influences we see in Africa today. So why is the Pope going to Africa, we ask again? It is because the world is changing. All the religions know this. Africa is a battleground for the soul. The people want to capture the minds of Africa. When you look at Christianity, for example, especially Catholicism, Catholicism is really a religion that has Rome as the papacy, okay? And you ask, what's Catholicism? Catholicism basically stands for universality, universal. When they say Catholic, they mean universal. This is the church that started after Jesus died. They feel like this is the true church of Jesus. When Jesus was alive, no church existed. After Jesus died, St. Peter, his apostle, went to Rome and started the Catholic Church. And the church has always been there. Then, of course, you know, during the Reformation, a lot of changes took place in the church. You've heard of the Martin Luther and the points. Then the Reformation. A lot of things were changed because people were criticizing practices in the church. And of course, the Enlightenment factors. We know all of this in history. So you ask yourself, so why is the Pope going to Africa? Why is a poor country such as La République du Cameroun, a country that has so many poor people, there is no water, there's no electricity, why is a country like Cameroon spending so much money to invite the Pope to come to Africa when the citizens cannot have lights, when the citizens cannot have food to eat? But they are spending colossal billions of dollars to pay for the Pope's visit. Why? Equatorial Guinea is doing the same thing. The Biya family has been in power forever. This island is a a very poor island. They produce oil, but the people do not really reap the benefits of the oil. All the wealth is in the hands of the Obiang family. That's very, very sad. But why are these people inviting the Pope to come to their country? That's the question. What's the hidden meaning behind this visit? What about Angola? Angola is a very rich country, rich in oil resources. Probably after Nigeria, Angola is one of the top producers of oil in the African continent. So why is João Lourenço inviting Pope Leo XIV to come to his country and spend all those days? It costs so much money. His people are dying of poverty. The Dos Santos family has stolen a lot of money from the country. But when João Lourenço came, he promised he's going to make some change to help the economy move again. So far, the people are not seeing any real benefits from his policies. Things are still tough. But why did he spend so much money to invite Pope Leo XIV to his country? Why? This is the question so many people keep asking. Then, of course, you have Algeria, which was the first stop of the Pope's visit in Africa. You know Algeria. Algeria is probably the largest country in Africa. It is in the north. This is the country of my philosopher, Albert Camus, the man who taught us the philosophy of existentialism, the absurd, okay? L'étranger, okay? He wrote all those books. La Peste, The Plague, Le Mythe de Sisyphus. He wrote all these books. Why is the Pope going to a Muslim country? Why? That's what this video of today is about. We're going to address the question. I know we'll put it in suspense for a short while, but we're going to address the question right now. Because the purpose of this video is to expose all of this information. You've watched the beautiful images of the Pope in his automobile going back and forth, the people jubilating, happy to see him. But at what cost? Is this cost justified? Well, in order to understand the cost, you have to understand that this is like a deal. When you make a deal, everybody benefits. On the one side, the people who are inviting the Pope are not the African people, because they don't really benefit from this visit. The people who are benefiting from this visit are the fake leaders who invited the Pope to come to Africa. Similarly, it is the Pope also, the Pope, he is also the one who is also benefiting from this visit. So it takes two to tango. The Pope or the papacy is benefiting, then the leaders such as Paul Biya, they are also benefiting. So they have to make a deal for mutual benefits. How does Biya benefit? In the case of La République du Cameroun, Biya's image has been tarnished. Okay? Biya's image has been tarnished because of the Anglophone crisis. He's looking for a way to burnish his image. So how else can you burnish your image other than inviting Pope Leo XIV to come to your country and give you some nice stuff, bless you, make you look like a godly person? So it's more like spending money on advertising. The Super Bowl. A company such as AT&T spends a lot of money on the Super Bowl because they know what they're getting. They want to buy influence. Okay? When you are with the Pope, people look at you like you're a nice guy, even though you're a killer, you're a murderer, you're a monster, a Frankenstein. That's basically what is happening. So for the Pope, what is Biya doing for him? Why does he need this visit from Biya? It's simple. Christianity is failing in Europe, is failing in America. So the only area where the religion is growing fast with a very young population is Africa. So it makes sense for the Pope to want to go to Africa and get his religion to survive. So right now, all these three faiths are fighting for survival. Islam wants to survive, Christianity wants to survive, And the Africans too want their indigenous belief systems to survive. So you have this interplay of three forces still going on. So you have to look at the Pope's visit in the context of looking for a way to reposition Catholicism for the new era, for the modern world, for the future. And this future belongs to Africa. So that's why the Pope would ignore the wickedness of most of these African leaders to accept their money and travel to those countries, even though he knows the moral majority would look dimly at this action. People will talk about Jesus Christ and Zacchaeus in the Bible. So the Pope looks at himself like Jesus Christ. Even though Paul Biya of Cameroon is evil, he still has to go there and meet this devil because he needs to reposition his church for the modern era. That's really why you see the Pope pulling his nose like this and smelling the stench of Paul Biya, who farts all the time. Okay? He would ignore everything else Paul Biya has done just because he wants to reposition his church for the new era. Because Africa now is the new horizon. This is the new frontier of religion. If he doesn't do this, the religion will be lost. There are a lot of challenges that the Catholic Church is facing. When you look at the Catholic Church, what are the key tenets? We're not going to dwell so much on the key tenets, but summarily I will tell you, as a Catholic, the key belief system of the Catholics is the Holy Trinity. God is a triumvirate. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. Okay? And second, it is the belief in the original sin. Adam and Eve were the first human beings. They fell out of grace because they sinned. Only by coming to Jesus Christ can they find redemption. That's a key belief system of the Catholic religion. Then, of course, you have the 7 sacraments, baptism and others. That's part of the Catholic dogma. But in a new world, these dogmas are being challenged. Things are changing. Homosexuality. How is the church going to deal with this? Those are some of the challenges the church is facing. Should they accept the changes in the modern world, or should they keep the doctrine sacrosanct? Those are the challenges facing the new Pope. He himself decided on this new adventure, this journey to Africa. Even though some people are saying his predecessor, Pope Francis, had already outlined most of these plans. But the church is facing a lot of headwinds in the world. Islam is also growing, so Christianity, especially the Catholic Church, does not want to stay behind. So, given the fact that Christianity is losing ground in Europe and in America, but in Africa you have a young, youthful population, the Pope wants to reach out to this young population because this is the future of the Catholic Church. So that's why the Pope would ignore the sins of all these leaders and decide to go to these countries because he wants to reposition the church for the new era, for survival. The Pope wants the Catholic Church to survive in the modern era. And that's why sometimes people say Islam is also struggling. Islam is not paying attention to some of the modern forces. Islam is like a religion that was designed for an old time, an old era. How is it going to deal with a new era? We think even the Boko Haram, that's the problem that they are facing. They don't know how to reposition themselves for the new era because you cannot be static. If a religion is static, it will die. The Pope knows this. So in order to reinvigorate Catholicism, he has to make an attempt now to travel the world to evangelize. Okay? He wants to evangelize and take the religion now to the people. And when you look at the message the Pope presents during these trips, youth, peace, poverty, these are the 3 themes that dominate the Pope's presentation. The youth, these are the people who believe in the future. Their future in Africa is bleak, and the Pope is telling them, Don't travel to Europe. Stay home and build your garden, your beautiful garden. How can these young people listen to this message? Because they are desperate. They are disillusioned. But the Pope has come to give them solace. That's the way they perceive this to be. Then, of course, these young people too are also feeling the scourge of war, conflict. In Cameroon, for example, the young people have been fighting the Biya government. Most of them have been killed. They have lost their families. Now that the Pope has come, his message resonates with these young people who are looking for a real dialogue. But will Paul Biya finally give them the opportunity to have a real dialogue instead of a monologue? Because, as the Pope says, the Anglophone crisis remains. It is not over, contrary to what the government of Paul Biya is trying to make people think. Is the Pope's visit to Cameroon going to change this? So those are some of the issues that the Pope has raised with the common Cameroonian who is in the area. When you look at the visit, so many young people are there. Message of peace, message of poverty. Poverty eradication, poverty alleviation is a very important theme during the Papal visit. Pope Leo XIV kept talking about ways to reduce poverty. You look at like when he went to Angola. In Angola, João Lourenço is the president of an oil-producing country, which is only second to Nigeria. His people have dealt with colonialism from Portugal. But even after independence, Angola has not known peace. Eduardo dos Santos has not really helped the country. He has instead squandered the wealth of that country. Agostinho Neto was even better, because even though he was communist, but he believed in trying to help his country free it from colonialism. Then after that, they started fighting each other. Jonas Savimbi came. Finally, he was killed. But did that change anything? Not really. So that's why things are really happening, and we have to look for ways to make them better in Angola. And that's the message of hope that Pope Leo XIV brought to Angola. So you can watch the pictures. They're really nice. But the Pope is telling them. The Pope is a very clever politician. As much as he's hobnobbing with the president, he throws little jabs. he throws little jabs to criticize most of these presidents. He's telling them, you spend so much time extracting mineral resources from your country. What about the poor? Your actions are destroying the economy. They are destroying the environment. What can you do to help the people? Just extracting minerals is not good enough. It's not going to do you any good. So the Pope holds a mirror so that most of these leaders can see themselves. It's like the conscience of the people. When you are a leader like Lourenço João, and the Pope is talking to you, but some of these people have really sold their conscience. And that's the sad thing when you look at most of these leaders. They've sold their conscience. So even the message that the Pope is giving them is not really resonating, because they're still doing the same thing. It's like he has come, he will go, and we'll go back and do what we've been doing. That's what we're going to do. So that's why Africa is in a very dire situation. Poverty, conflict, the young people cannot find jobs, the economies are not doing well, but they keep extracting minerals. What about Algeria? Well, the choice of Algeria is also very telling. In fact, all the countries the Pope visited were carefully selected. That's what you need to know. They were not selected by chance. One, you have to remember St. Augustine in the Catholic Church. St. Augustine is a scholar, and the Pope, Pope Leo XIV, belongs to this St. Augustine realm. He supports, he's one of them, the St. Augustine. He was a scholar. You can read more about St. Augustine. Pope Leo XIV belongs to that order, the Augustine order. But that's not really why the Pope chose Algeria. The Pope chose Algeria because of interfaith communion. Donald Trump has been causing a whole lot of polarization, political polarization. So Muslims and Christians are having a tough time living together. There is no peaceful coexistence. So the Pope is trying to send a message that even though we are rivals, even though Christianity is competing with Islam, we can live together as brothers and sisters. So this is the message of the interfaith worship. The Pope came here now to deliver this message of community. The Arabs who are Christians and the other people have to live together. They have to live together as brothers and sisters. So that's why the Pope chose Algeria as the first leg of his travel, because he wanted to deliver this message of interfaith communion. Then what about Cameroon? Well, Cameroon is a dominant Catholic country, even though you have the Protestant faith in Cameroon. Then you also have the Islamic faith in the north. Then, of course, you have indigenous belief systems. The Pope loves visiting this country because the tyrant, Paul Biya, loves giving a lot of money to the church. He thinks this is the way he can buy his way. He can buy heaven. So it's like you can pay a price and you get to heaven. So it's like there's a rocket that the church has designed. And that's a lie the Catholic Church is telling Paul Biya. We've designed this rocket. Once you pay us a price, we can guarantee you a place in heaven. You can commit all the sins you want, kill as many people in Amazonia, kill them as much as you want, but we're going to give you a little water. It will wash off all your dirty deeds. God will forgive you for all your crimes. That's why Paul Biya says, Pope, come to Cameroon and help me. I will also help you. I'll pay for it. So you can see now that the church is sleeping with the enemy. Why is the church sleeping with the enemy? Because they need the resources for evangelization. The Pope needs Paul Biya's money so they can reach more young people and spread the message of hope, the message of peace, the message of poverty alleviation, and the message of hope. With Biya's money now, the Pope can do this. So what about Equatorial Guinea? Well, Equatorial Guinea is a small country. The Pope also chose this country because he wanted to show that this country fits in the theme he's trying to promote. Equatorial Guinea is a small country, but they have a growing Catholic population. So the Pope wants to encourage them to remain in the fold. The Pope doesn't want them to become Muslims, so he wants them to remain Catholics, which is why he chose Equatorial Guinea. Even though in Equatorial Guinea, the guy who is running that country, Obiangema, is a devil, but the Pope still chose to go there and spend time with the devil. It's very sad when you look at what is happening. The people in Equatorial Guinea are poor, dead poor. Since independence, this country has been run only by one family. First, it was Masias Ngema. Then, Obiangema killed his uncle and took over power in 1975. Okay? Since then, he's been president. He's probably the longest ruling president in Africa. Only Paul Biya is second to him. So when you look at this, the Pope is now recognizing these dictators. That's the way the average person sees it. But did the Pope spend some time to caution these leaders, talk about human rights, the release of political prisoners? Those are some of the issues that our viewers want to hear. Did the Pope talk to them about these realities? You see a lot of people in jail. What is their crime? They are prisoners without a crime. Their only crime is they spoke the truth to power. They spoke the truth, and the leaders did not like the truth. They put them in jail. And they are languishing in jail just for speaking the truth. So the conscience of these people is actually judging what is going on here. So we see this, and we're encouraging you that these are the facts. Now you begin to see the secrets why the Pope made this Faustian deal with some leaders in Africa. Because it's something that the Pope has something to gain. So even though the Pope may not really like these leaders personally, but for survival, the survival of the church, the Pope had to work with them. So it is not really a moral issue that the Pope wants to change them, bring them back into the fold. No, these people are evil. And the Pope knows these people have been killing their citizens. Yet the Pope is sleeping with the enemy because the Pope needs their resources. These countries are spending a whole lot of money to make sure that the trip of the Pope is successful. Look at the logistical challenges of bringing a Pope to a small country such as Cameroon. You have to spend a whole lot on the military, security. It's too much. This is money that should have been spent taking care of the needs of the people. Just look at the money Cameroon spent to bring the Pope to their country. The Pope went to Bamenda, the Pope went to Yaoundé, and the Pope went to Douala. The money Cameroon spent to bring the Pope to Cameroon could have been spent to build schools for poor children. But you see a lot of places in Cameroon where there are no schools. The schools are ill-equipped. Or you see places in Cameroon where there are no hospitals. Even doctors are dying because of bad care. Don't you think this money should have been spent to build schools, build hospitals? That's the question we're asking in this video. If you think you like what we've been saying, subscribe to this video and comment. Please comment. By commenting, people will know what you think. Bye-bye.
Selling a service or a product? Need buyers? Use the African Nation TV as a channel to reach many viewers. Act now and call Prince Ojong at 240-350-1131. That's 240-350-1131. Act today.